Hey guys, before we get started, I just wanted to mention that we are changing up the schedule just a little bit. We recorded this episode on a Monday, but we realized patches are coming out on Tuesdays. So in order to make sure you guys get the latest news and updates, we're going to release new episodes on Thursdays instead of Tuesdays. So next week, you can expect the next episode to come out on the 8th. With that, let's get into it. This episode is brought to you by Tiramisu and a Cosmo. Pairs perfectly with a game night with the boys.
This is Hot Drop, where we bring you premier PUBG analysis and the most sizzling of drops. I'm Cody,
I'm Dano.
and let's get into it.
Today's topics include Xbox patch notes number 6, along with some news out of Microsoft, PC patch notes number 3, and we'll wrap up with some audience feedback.
I'd like to start off by saying thank you to all of you who have rated and written reviews on iTunes. We ask that you keep doing that because it's really helped us a lot in terms of working with our brand and growing it and doing more things. And all of you who have sent emails this week, and YouTube especially, we thank you so much because we sit there and we talk about how great our listeners are and how engaged you guys are. And we just want to keep that growing and build and build and build. So all of your feedback has really gotten us to think outside the box and what we want to do to build the brand and add to the stream and add to the podcast. And so this week, for the first time, we tried out some new challenges in our stream, and we think that whoever was there in those streams really enjoyed that. And so Dan's going to kind of explain what we've done there.
We want to do more than just sit down and play a video game for you guys. What we're building is an interactive experience on Twitch, where you guys can earn currency throughout the night and then spend it on triggering challenges in-game that we will compete. If we win that challenge, you guys will all get a payout. One challenge might be as simple as pistols and shotguns only for the entire match, or one could be as complex as swapping all your gear with every enemy you kill.
Just check us out on our live streams every Sunday and Wednesday night from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hop on, spend some droplets, see what challenges we want to take on.
Check out the description of this video for links to all of our social media, including our Twitch account.
All right, let's jump right into our Xbox patch notes number 6. In terms of gameplay, I think they made some pretty interesting changes here. And the first one, when we were talking about this, was they added the auto run function, which I guess I had no idea they didn't actually have.
We are truly back to beta with Xbox. I had no idea they were this far behind. It feels like such a basic thing to add.
That would essentially be like not having any kind of free look.
Kinda, yeah. Really similar to that.
We use auto run during every single match. I don't know how people play that game without auto run.
Yeah. It blew my mind when I read this.
If you think about how lacking a game could be in terms of inventory management without auto run, this is the epitome. I feel like half of the time when we're running, we are looking at our inventory, knowing what we're going to get rid of, what we're not going to do. And sometimes you're just throwing when you're running.
Yeah, you're looting on the fly or dropping on the fly for a teammate behind you, maybe. And to not have an auto run button is such a tiny thing, but it's such a massive quality of life improvement if you have that. And your thumbs have got to get tired.
Incredibly. And I'd like to sincerely apologize to any of you Xbox players because I did not know that you have been missing auto run for so long. And now you have to hit a button 3 times to auto run.
But I think all of this goes back to the fact that they're tweaking this controller scheme. And we talked about this last week. They haven't figured out the best controller layout and all the button mapping for an Xbox controller. And there are different Xbox controllers with different buttons as well. So there's a lot of trial and error, I think, and it's just weird to me that they haven't had this this staple of a feature yet, and they're finally adding it 6 patches deep.
Yeah, and I wonder, I mean, the next one was that people can now drop their equipped weapons with the Y button. What was it before? What was holding people up from being able to do that simple function of, hey, I want to drop this equipped weapon right now?
Yeah, I guess I just figured that all of this stuff would have been straightened out before this game was even released. I mean, these are major controller changes, right? Control should be something you learn once, and it's a one and done. And ever since that moment on, you understand how to play the game. But if you're not actively seeking out all of these patch notes, you might not even realize that things are changing, and it's going to take some adjustment to get up to speed with these new button mappings.
What's interesting about that is when you say like you should learn how to use a controller once, they switched up the Assassin's Creed controllers from the last series to this series, and that was a serious adjustment, and I've been using that forever. And so intuitively, I want to hit certain buttons to make myself parkour or make myself fight or parry or whatever. I can't imagine the struggle that these people are having right now when trying to adjust to 3 to 4 different commands every single time there's a patch, especially if you're playing a lot of hours.
Right. And I don't know if the patch notes come up on screen or you get a notification that your controller layout has changed, because you might not even find out that you can drop your equipped weapon with a Y button until you accidentally do it in the middle of a firefight when you're trying to loot quickly in your inventory. So yeah, for you Xbox players out there, I would like to know how these controller changes have affected you. If you think these changes are good or bad, and if you would have liked more heads up or at least a notification that these things are changing. Is this a big of a deal as we're making it out to be? Because to me, it seems like it is. This is sort of like someone going to my computer and changing the buttons for some of the most used controls that I have and not telling me, and then just telling me go play and you're fine. You'll figure it out. So I think it's just kind of weird, but I don't know. That's my take.
Yeah, and perhaps you feel like it's just sort of a situation where you go, well, this is how we live now, and this is what we come to expect. But I think that that's a little unfair to you guys, and I think while Bluehole is trying to make this the best game possible for you, I want to know if it's making you frustrated. I want to know if it's a struggle to keep adapting to these things. I see that they did change one back to you can now cycle through your grenades again using the D-pad, which I believe it was 1 or 2 patch notes ago they took that away, right?
I think so, yeah.
They changed the way that you cycled through grenades at that point. And you can now cancel casting actions while in the inventory screen.
Yeah, so that's like hitting F when you're applying a bandage. There's on the keyboard, it would be F as the default command to cancel the activity.
Yeah, and we've always had that. I don't remember a point in the, I don't know, 7 months now that I've been playing this game that we didn't have those actions. So what would be nice for us to know is like the rationale behind it. We were kind of talking about that last week. Is I'd like to know why they made these changes, and more importantly, why they didn't think of these things before they put them in the Xbox version.
Yeah. And when I said we're back to beta, it's almost like we're back to alpha, because I've been playing this game since launch in March of this year when it was officially launched on Steam. And they had this stuff. Like, this was all in there. This is always in the game, all of these controls. So it's kind of weird to me. I guess I said this last week, but I always sort of expected that once this game hit the Xbox, it would be the same, if not extremely similar to the build that is the PC 1.0 build, just minus Miramar. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought that this was going to be a finely tuned in scare quotes, but this is the same game, and here you go.
Yep.
But it is what it is, I guess, and we'd really like to hear your feedback on this and the progression of the game. We've gotten a lot of feedback from you Xbox players, and we really, really appreciate that, because I don't think we intended, I don't think we expected to have so much feedback from the Xbox community, but it is so much appreciated from being two people that play PC games, that I'm really glad you guys are enjoying this so that we can throw more information out at you guys.
Yeah, and we want to stress that, I probably said this before as well, but this is not a show where we target specifically the PC market. We think this game is the topic of the show, and it applies to Xbox, it applies to PC, and hopefully to PS4 when it comes out, because I personally have a PS4, and I'm hoping they eventually release it for that console as well.
Yeah, I'd shell out another $30 for that.
I totally would. Yeah, totally would. It's a completely different experience just laying back on your couch with a controller, so I would love to have that experience with PUBG.
Yeah.
So optimization, this is continuing the patch notes number 6 for Xbox. Continued optimization and crash fixes. They added a game controller guide. They updated the game controller guide. I assume this is because they changed some of the controls. You can now see what those controller changes are.
Perfect. Did you call the Orchid Man? Because seems like Bluehole did, and they brought out the bug fixes.
Extermination.
It seems as though the buildings around the military base have had their collision adjusted.
Yeah, this is talking about where you have a model in the world that say it's the shape of a square, but maybe the what you see is not accurate in terms of what your character can collide with. So say
Yeah,
if
that
you
makes
have
sense.
a square, but it actually is the shape of a rectangle, but it's half of it's invisible, so you're running into midair and just colliding with nothing. That's what they're talking about here.
Okay, so essentially their mapping was wrong on their shapes.
Yeah, some of the shapes were off in
Hmm.
terms of the what the player saw versus what the shape actually is.
Gotcha. Camera shake when riding as a passenger in vehicles has also been reduced. That's an issue on PC as well. It gets
Oh,
super
it's so bad.
shaky and janky, and it's just terrible to be a passenger in these cars. Your inventory character models have returned to their normal stance. I like to picture them just in a squat position.
I was thinking the exact same thing. That's great. That's great.
That's good that they're standing upright again. They've also fixed the camera issue that's created by unintended aim down sights and free look interactions. Cool.
Inventory character models about to drop the hottest album of 2018. Sorry.
The A button will no longer refresh game results screen. That seems like it would be helpful.
Game results screen. This might be when you die and you get your ending screen that tells you what kills you've gotten. Maybe
Yeah.
it was incorrectly refreshing.
Well,
I
we
don't
were
know.
having that issue on PC a couple of days ago where but it only happened to us when you were crashed and you go back in and then you kept refreshing the screen and it kept saying that you were still alive.
Oh, I don't remember that. Is that when
Yeah.
like if you crash, like you were alive in the game, but you couldn't actually control your character
Yeah, and
because
so
you really had died?
you couldn't exit back to the lobby. It would just keep refreshing your death screen.
Oh, interesting. I don't remember
Yeah.
seeing that myself, but
It might have been when John and Zach were playing.
oh, okay.
Your team UI will now correctly show the proper direction teammates are facing over large distances. That has been the toughest thing lately, even for PC, I think, is when people are far distances. It is so difficult to find out where your teammates are until
Mhm.
you get to a higher vantage point or something, and all of a sudden you can actually see the real direction that they're in.
Yeah. Yeah, this is talking about the direction they're facing, which is helpful in a firefight to
Hmm.
know what direction they're shooting and what direction your potential enemies are coming from.
Player changes to markers on the in-game map will now be properly applied to their teammates' in-game map.
Oh, that's weird. There must have been a desync between the marker that you put on the map and the marker that your teammate actually saw on their screen.
Very interesting.
But that's a really good fix. Good catch.
Can you imagine the amount of problems that would cause?
Yeah, really. It's like I marked it. Where? I'm thinking about looting, like, oh,
Yeah.
there's a level 2 helmet over here. I marked it for you, and then the marker is actually in a completely different house
Yeah.
on your screen. Yeah, that'd be frustrating.
They fixed an issue where switching to throwables under certain conditions left the player empty-handed. So essentially, you'd be flexing through all your grenades and your throwables and stuff, and you would end up with nothing in your hands.
That would be potentially game ending. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's like coming up from bandaging your wounds and with no gun in your hand.
Yeah. Happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a
And
bug. That's just us playing poorly.
yeah, that's just us being terrible. And they adjusted the character positioning when exiting vehicles and parachutes.
Hmm.
I can see how that would be helpful, especially when you pop out of the cars. When you get out of the cars, that's always terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Or when you land on the ground, but all of a sudden your character model moves like 10 feet to the right.
And you're facing the opposite direction that you were facing before.
Yep. Yep. Sounds like that's
And
was
that,
tweaked.
ladies and gents, is the Xbox patch number 6.
We had some feedback from some Xbox viewers. Do you want to jump into that now?
Yeah, might as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'll hit that. So we got an email from someone named Mace who said that they found our podcast, enjoyed listening to us. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. But they said that they, again, going back to this performance stuff we were talking about, where the Xbox One X versus a standard Xbox One, the performance discrepancies that some people have reported. This person says that they and their wife game together, and they can tell that there's no significant advantage on the Xbox One X. They play side by side on nice TVs, and the only differences worth pointing out are obviously that the graphics are a bit sharper and the map loads faster after jumping on the One X. They can see buildings before their wife can, but not by much. So they think that the last few updates have brought the original Xbox One quality up a little bit.
I think that that's really important to note is that some people think that the Xbox One X is significantly better in playing this game, and others say, "No, I'm playing side by side with my significant other, and this is not. It's not that much of a big deal. I mean, yeah, it looks prettier, things maybe load in a tiny bit faster, but we noticed that too with mine. It's significantly different, or it was significantly different before I got my SSD.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's hard drive speed more than anything. It's
Yeah, so if it's got more processing power or whatever, maybe it's not making that big of a difference. I
yeah.
mean, we know that the servers still kind of suck, so
Hmm.
a lot of this is on Bluehole.
Yeah, it is, and on the optimization or lack thereof. But I think this kind of is a symptom of people just talking on the internet and repeating what other people are saying. I'm not saying that I know for sure that the Xbox One, the standard one, is not as powerful or is not as fast loading as the Xbox One X. I haven't seen it. I don't know in person for sure what the real answer is here. But I think that a lot of people have said this over and over and over again, that the Xbox One X is simply faster and it's a pay to win type situation. And maybe people are just repeating what they hear from other people and they haven't tried it themselves. So I don't know for sure. But it's cool to see someone who has played them side by side, who has both games, both consoles side by side, and can tell that there's really isn't that big of an advantage. And maybe there was at one time, but we see how many patches come out in a month for this game. And
Yeah,
there's
and
a lot of updates and a lot of optimization that might be taking care of some of the issues that people might have seen earlier on.
it was 3-4 patch notes ago before when that statement was made that the Xbox One X is so much better and it kind of blows the original out of the water. Maybe that's not so much the case anymore. Maybe
Yeah.
they dumbed down the code a little bit or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. But I love this. I love this feedback. I love this scientific testing that we're doing here. And if you have any more comments about the Xbox versions, we would love to hear them. We love hearing this stuff from you guys. So please send them in Twitter, email, talk to us in our Discord, link in description, and let us know.
Smoke signal,
Yep.
smoke signal.
We will pick up any signal that you guys throw out. We are very receptive to our audience. I have to say that.
Send us a raven.
We did get some tweets as well because there's been some news, and I want to cover that first, actually. So there was a announcement by Microsoft that they hit 4 million players on the Xbox console. So, Cody, I think you also apologize.
I'd like to take this time to apologize to our fans. I made a mistake. I doubted your ability to reach the number of players that we have reached. I spoke out of turn. It was churlish. And it was disrespectful to your fan base. And for that, I congratulate you and apologize.
Well stated.
Thank you.
Well stated. 4 million players. 4 million not concurrent players. Just 4 million copies sold? 4 million.
They said
players?
4 million players.
I don't know what
think
that
they meant
means.
4 million players.
But does that
Not
mean 4
concurrent.
million players playing at the same time, or 4 million players who have installed the game and have
I
played
think-
it once?
I think that it
that's
is
the one.
4 million players that have installed the game and played it at least one time. And I think that is super impressive for a janky
Yes.
game that has
Yes.
just hooked people.
Yeah, that's super impressive. This is a faster growth than the PC saw. I'm pretty sure, and I would love to be corrected if I'm wrong, but it seems like the console has the numbers. There's a lot of people out there with Xboxes, way more than the number of people with gaming PCs. So it's pretty cool to see. This game spans consoles. It doesn't have to be on a PC to be fun. People are loving it on the Xbox too.
There's something about it. It just gets you hooked and you just want more, even though it's broken and it makes you mad.
Yep.
And for that, I apologize.
They said that they are rewarding people who have purchased the game thus far. So anyone who has purchased a PUBG copy on the Xbox One and has created a character before January 31st at 12 a.m. Pacific time will receive 30,000 battle points, or as we refer to them as
Banana packs.
to purchase cosmetic crates in the game. So this is for people who want to buy some crates, buy some skins. This brings up an interesting point that I just thought of is, are the keys and crates the same on Xbox? Please chime in, people. Let us know, because there's no Steam market on an Xbox to buy skins that have already been unboxed, right?
Yeah.
So there must be just keys and crates in order to get a skin. So, but yeah, so they're hooking you guys up with some battle points so you can spend them and get some more cosmetics, which some people love and some people hate, but you can't argue with free stuff, right?
You really can't argue with free stuff. It's inanimate.
Yeah.
It doesn't talk back.
The best kind of stuff.
Yep.
So we got some feedback because Cody obviously made the bold statement that he didn't think we'd reach 3 million, 4 million players. Ben on Twitter says, this milestone represents the Xbox community pretty well. The console may be inferior with performance compared to the PC, which I agree with, but the community is there and it's eager, and we've seen that ourselves too. We've got, like we said earlier on, a lot of people reaching out to us and saying, please cover Xbox stuff. He also said the looting isn't so bad with an Elite controller. If you use the lower right paddle for the menu option, it makes it easier than tabbing on the PC. So just throwing in a little bit of gameplay.
That would be really interesting. That would be really interesting to see somebody use on camera.
Yes, I would love to see that. Because
I don't care about their game. I want to watch them play with like a second camera on their controller.
Yeah, and try to go through the looting menus, because I've seen, and I was talking to you about this. The loot menu, the UI, you have to use your left and right bumper to move over to each column in the UI. So, on the left side you have your items. Maybe on the far left side you have the items of the box you're looting, and then you have your weapons on the right side. So you have to right bumper all the way over to your weapons, scroll down to your attachment for your scar, maybe the grip attachment, and then you select it to be able to drop it or do whatever. So like there's so many buttons you have to click versus a quick flick of the mouse and a drag. So I would love to see people loot really quick. That would be a skill that you really have to master, I think.
You would dominate in that game if you could speed up your looting process.
Yeah, definitely.
So we wanted to move on to our PC patch number 3 that wasn't a big patch, but it was a little bit helpful to know that they're still pushing things out. We haven't gotten a major update anytime in the since 1.0, but they're still working on stuff, and they did say that they're about to throw out a bigger patch here coming up shortly, right?
They said they do have some things in the works, but they haven't really said what they are. They just said they will announce those things at a later date. So we don't really know what they're working on right now, other than obviously optimization and fighting cheaters, which is an all-day, everyday battle.
It's getting worse.
Yeah.
Especially, we realize this in third person. But I think that they're about to drop a big patch on us here soon. They're about due for one. 1.0 launched. Before that, we would get that same kind of increment of here's a big patch, here's a big patch, here's a big patch. So I think that we're due for one soon. In this one, gameplay, they introduced a pre-match starting area to optimize the server and in-game client performance. So, I mean, it's definitely helped a little bit. I think that they spreading our spawn area around to 4 or 5 different places on each map has helped buildings and things load in, and less glitchiness and less issues at the start of the match.
And less just and less destruction of your eardrums from the stupid guns that are on spawn islands. There's no point for them being there, so I'm really glad they're gone.
Thank God. It took them long enough because they learned with Miramar, and they should have just taken it out of Erangel right when they launched Miramar.
Yeah, I've heard people say that the server performance is a little bit better because 100 people in the same spot is a lot of calculations to make. So I think that's what they're going for here, is just to spread the people out a little bit and don't have everyone clustered up in the same spot, so the servers have to load all of the data from all of the clients sending information to each other.
Yeah, they added some new languages in different fonts, Russian, Japanese, and Chinese. And they also fixed the issue where players were able to slide jump from prone, which I never experienced, so I don't really know how that affected anybody.
Neither do I. I have not seen that, but it sounds like an exploit that they just patched up. something you shouldn't be doing.
And that was your patch notes number 3.
Yes. And this is the time when I can go on a little bit of a rant, right? So
Let's.
the blue zone balance patch was added to test on January 18th. This is something we covered at the last episode. Test servers closed January 22nd, which was 4 days later. And then they opened up the next day on the 23rd with this new patch. The starting area location changes and weapons removed, bug fix, and some anti-cheat stuff that we didn't mention before, but they're working on anti-cheat. We know this. So this was on the 23rd, and then less than 24 hours later, on January 24th, they pushed this test update to live, which completely screwed up our game night. That's fine, whatever. We know. We should be aware of that because the servers were down from 9 o'clock for a couple hours. So they said that the maintenance would take, I believe, 3 hours. But no one knew about this. They didn't post it in the client that the servers were going to be down for maintenance. So people were refreshing their game, thinking something was broken, probably submitting tickets to PUBG, Bluehole, saying that my game is broken, please help me, I can't connect to any servers. They only announced this via a tweet that I saw. I didn't see any other form of communication. And maybe there was, but just the fact that I didn't see it, and as a common player, a regular player who doesn't really follow the Twitter account, I would have never known that there was maintenance, and I wouldn't know how long it was for. I would just think my PC was broken and something was wrong with the game. How do you not tell people right in the main menu? We've seen it in older builds. We saw this before PC 1.0 launch. Right there, when there's server maintenance, they say, hey, alert, server maintenance from 9 to 11. Right, giant, big on your main menu. How do they not do that for this version? Like, that was such a massive oversight, and it's such a small thing to bitch and complain about, but they really needed to do that because a lot of people don't follow their Twitter account, and it's just unfair to the users to think that something was broken and potentially hit their, sit there clicking refresh for 5 minutes trying to get their game to load. And
what I find to be most frustrating about this is you can get away with that when you're in early access. This is 1.0 now. You can't drop it 13 hours earlier, which is, keep in mind, Korean, whatever time it is in Korea where they're sending these tweets out, it is like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's our stream night. It's happened twice now on our Wednesdays that they say, by the way, tonight this is the problem. It's going to be down. Via tweet, not on the game, not on the community page, just there. And I go, there's nothing we can do about this. Like, we can't say, hey, man, we wanted to stream tonight. We just have to deal with it.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
You shouldn't be doing that in version 1.0.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's frustrating how it's peak time in the US where they're patching the servers. And I get it. The majority of their client base and customer base is in China and overseas where it's not 9 o'clock at night. But it's frustrating. But I guess it's a little bit of a payback for all the other games that Europeans can't play during their peak hours when we're over here updating it if the game is stationed in US.
That's fair. So we apologize to all of our
Yeah.
player audience outside of the US.
Yep. But our point here is that they need to announce it. Just put a note in the game, put it on the main menu, put it right in your face to say, this is happening at this time. But all this went down, right? So there was, a couple hours of downtime. We finished up our stream night. I went to bed. It was late on the East Coast. And then apparently the patch needed to be extended. The maintenance period for the patch needed to be extended an hour due to unforeseen technical issues. I get it. These things happen. That's fine. Then the next morning I wake up, because every morning I wake up and check my Twitter to see all the latest PUBG news. The patch introduced an issue with the friends list. And it took them about 3 hours to fix this patch where the friends list wasn't refreshing. And we saw this actually on the test server too. You remember how the friends list just wouldn't load, even though we'd all be in the game sitting there.
Yep.
So this happened. There was a patch to fix the patch. And then 5 hours after this, there was a connection issue. It was fixed within an hour. So, props to the dev for that. But still, it seemed to me that this patch was rushed so much. Like, why did we have to push it to live less than 24 hours after it hit the test servers? It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm in software. I understand what it takes to make a application run and how to correctly patch something and how to test a patch before you release it. There's no reason for them to push this patch as fast as they did. They could have sat it on the server for 2 or 3 more days, let it bake, caught these issues before they pushed to live. But no. Less than 24 hours, here's your patch. And also here's about 5 or 6 more hours of downtime because the patch broke all this other stuff that we missed when we tested it.
What I'm starting to wonder about all of this is during that H3 interview, Brendan Green talked about how they don't want to mess with the core code, and it's a lot trickier to play with these things now that they're this far along in the process. And I'm wondering if they're starting to make it so convoluted that the code is starting to catch a lot more bugs and develop a lot more things that were unforeseen.
Yeah.
And so it's becoming more and more difficult to adapt and change the game.
I'm sure that all of these low-level code changes are affecting a lot of stuff that they miss or they didn't even realize was connected.
If any of you are coders and want to let us know if we're way off base here, we don't really know what we're talking about, let us know. It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm speculating here. Let me speculate for 2 seconds here.
Yeah. And I can't speculate so much as about what actually happened behind the scenes or anything like that. I can just say with confidence, and I believe to be correct here when I say that this should have sat on the test servers for at least another day. Like, there was no reason that I can see as a consumer and as a player of this game. There was no need for this patch immediately, so why not let it sit for just a little bit longer, get some QA on it, make sure it's good to go, and not introducing other bigger problems before pushing it to live. And maybe I'm just salty because we got screwed on our game night.
I think like they should adopt a plan. If it's a small patch like that, why not put it on the test server, take it off, fix it, put it back on the test server until there are less bugs, and then launch it.
Yeah.
Don't just assume that you've fixed the bugs or you've taken note of those bugs and then throw it to live.
Right.
Test it out, take it off, fix it, throw it back on the test server and go, yep, you're right, that fixed it, and then throw it to live and let us know.
Mm-hmm. Let us know. That's the biggest thing. Let us know. That's all I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah. What else?
I mean, there are no plans to add weather back in. We got a couple of those questions from people about whether or not they were going to add weather back into Erangel, and turns out they found out that people don't really like the different weather patterns and they just want to play the game now. And it was cool during early access to kind of experience different things. And then we got the second map, and now I don't think anybody cares. I honestly didn't even know it was gone.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed it because I covered it pretty heavily in previous episodes back in season 1. I talked about the announcement that they made, which was we've got fog and we've got nighttime or dusk. We've got, the rain, which was there from the beginning, I think. And it was cool. It was a cool variation of the game mode. And it really did change the game when you're playing in rain and you can't hear footsteps and your vision is obscured and you can move around a little more freely, but also not see people or hear people as well. And the fog, like where it introduced this weird dynamic of the low ground is the new high ground kind of thing, where if you are, standing on a hilltop looking down, you're silhouetted against the sky so much that you can't see the people below you, but they can see you. I don't know. Like, I miss it, but I also get why they'd want to take it out. If people are constantly leaving games because they don't want to play a fog match, I understand it. And I mean, I would do the same thing if I didn't like fog.
Now that I've sat here for 32 seconds thinking about it, I think that we have now become so engrossed in the idea of how the game is changing and cheaters and the bugs and how to play during our squad nights and stuff like that. We're forgetting how to enjoy certain aspects of the game. So there are a lot more cheaters. There is a lot more of an opportunity for us to crash or glitch or whatever. That's probably why I didn't even notice that the weather was gone.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're getting to a point now where a big patch does need to come out where we are brought back into that game. And immersion is a big thing that a lot of people keep talking about, and I guess I don't feel as immersed as I used to in terms of gameplay, but in the feeling that it gets when we stream.
Yeah.
And so I'd like them in their patch to come back and say, hey, we fixed a bunch of this stuff and we've actually made the game better.
Because when it's new and it's fresh and there's new features, you forget about the bugs. Because if there's enough cool stuff to take your attention away from the blemishes, I guess, then you don't notice them as much.
Yeah. And it's not saying that I don't enjoy this game, because I love this game. But now that I'm thinking about it, like, I feel like we did come at it at a different approach before, when in early access, when they kept coming out with cool stuff and let's tweak this, let's work this into the game. And now we're at 1.0 and they're putting out these little patches and these little bug fixes and focusing on cheaters and stuff, that I go, okay, but there's still a lot to mess with the game to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
Let's work it in so that we can go, wow, this is pretty great again.
And we're also really receptive, or perceptive, I guess, of the bugs now, because we've been playing for so long. And when there's games where you're playing all the way up to, you know, top 10 situations, and then you get a bad module info crash to your desktop, like that's a big problem. Like that's a very blatant bug that will really frustrate you and ruin your night. But there's the little stuff too that we're noticing a bit more now, I think, just because we know this game a little bit better and we can nitpick a little more.
Yeah, and maybe that's on us to get out of that
a
little bit and focus on how great the game makes us feel when we actually play, and not focusing on the details and the little nitpicky stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just can't stand when I'm crashing constantly to desktop. Like that's my biggest complaint right now, at least with the current build. The cheaters are also a big problem. But I think if they come back to us, they turn this thing around and give us a really big patch with some content, you know, fix the map where you're falling through holes in the ground and stuff like that, which I actually haven't seen personally. I've just seen people talk about that and seen clips of it. That's going to bring people around and get people more excited about the game again, and get people complaining a little bit less because they're distracted by the cool stuff that they're adding. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't fix the bugs. I mean, eventually we'll get there, but
right now it's feeling a little few and far between in terms of advancements in the game and more stopgap band-aids.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it. I don't get us wrong.
Yeah, same.
I love this game. I want to see this keep changing and keep growing. We're a little salty today, but we'll come back. We'll throw more pepper in there.
Yeah, I think we are. I think that's what it comes down to. Yeah, I was, to round up this whole conversation and go back to weather, I was a little bit bummed about it, but I get it. I understand why they wanted to remove it. But I'm excited for the new maps that are in store. They've talked about it a few times. They never issued any screenshots or much in the line of interviews about it, but they are working on a map that contains snow, whether that means snow falling in the air or just on the ground already. They are interested in adding some kind of weather or different environments other than grass and desert. So I think that is going to be something that we see in the next couple months, maybe even 6 to 8 months from now. So definitely in 2018, I think we'll get a new map. I'm not holding my breath anytime soon, but they are looking at this stuff. They are thinking about maps and weather and environments and different stuff like that.
And that's exciting. I'm excited for all of that.
But,
and what Bluehole did do and PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds did do is they have a known issues page. Like, we know this is going on. This is what we are working on. Let's go from there.
This will help people relax a little bit when it comes to these bugs that we're talking about.
So let's cover a couple of those things that they are working on. These things are scheduled to be fixed. The compass UI wobbling when parachuting straight down, dying from falling when vaulting and climbing in the water, delay between reload and first shot, the adjusted zoom level and 8x scope resets after changing into another weapon. When the character opens a door while sitting down, the door opens as the character stands up instead of opening immediately. When player changes the seat while in a motorcycle in the air, stops and sinks into the ground, which we've seen a lot. Mm-hmm. Holographic and red dot sights are intermittently pixelated. Some in-game texts are missing or misaligned, And after reconnecting to the game, the camera direction of the ADS first-person perspective goes off intermittently.
Yeah, and those things are all fixed. They have been fixed, and they're scheduled to be patched in the next live server patch. They don't say when that is, but they're saying, like, hey, we've identified these problems, we've fixed them, so, hold on to your britches. It's coming. Next patch.
Yeah, and these next things are issues that they have been working on, and they are in the process of being fixed. So these are their next tiers of things that they're working on, which is random overturning of motorcycles, which happens all the time right now. 2 players getting stuck in the door, which killed us in a top 10 situation before. Reporting through replay, sometimes the name is wrong or even invisible, which I have noticed so often. We are talking about those number codes.
Yeah. Yep. I guess it is just a bug.
Long leather boots, brown, do not have spikes in the game. That's sort of irrelevant. 4x scopes aim point shows red instead of blue in colorblind mode. Friends list does not function normally, which we talked about a little bit. The reconnect button doesn't show when trying to rejoin the game after being disconnected from a custom match. After reconnecting in duo squad games, team members can't distinguish or revive each other. Team members' markers on the map are different from their actual locations. And team members' HP indicators in the lower left appear full and do not change.
Yep. And I've seen all of those. It's really frustrating. It happened to me during the stream night. I died. I crashed, and then I died, and then they couldn't revive me, and then I saw myself being on the completely opposite end of the map where I actually was. And then my HP appeared as full at the bottom left, even though I was dead. And I had to manually exit to lobby. So I really wish that one was fixed already, but... yeah, I guess just try not to crash during a duo and squad game. That's what it comes down to.
And the last bit that they have on this page are need to be reported. These are comparatively rare issues that require individual resolution. If you're experiencing one of these issues, please contact their customer support. And we'll paste this link in the description. So if you guys want to see this page and you want some of these issues, feel free to click these links. In the main menu, BP appears as NA, and there's a message that says the matchmaking failed. BP appears as a dash of quotes. Sometimes when the server is unstable, actions that consume BP, such as character customization, are made multiple times in a series, consuming a large amount of BP at the same time. Please take a screenshot of this and send it to customer support. And also, when trying to reconnect to the game after disconnecting, the reconnect button is not there. Again, contact customer support if you have this issue. Link in the description.
Yep. And they're keeping this list constantly updated as they find and fix more things. It was last updated on January 26th. And I assume that they will just keep updating that.
I would assume they're going to do it once a week.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Once a week.
Yep. So yeah, that is all the news I think we have on the PC side of things. I think this was a really informative episode. I think we got off the rails a little bit talking about the bugs and stuff. But what I wanted to circle back on is just your guys' feedback. We've gotten such great feedback from you guys, from emails to tweets to notes in our Discord, and we really thrive off this stuff, and we're going to mention it during all of our episodes. We'd love to call out to you guys and share your thoughts with the rest of our audience, so please keep doing that. And obviously, description will have all of the links to all of our social media, so you can find us there.
Yeah. Thank you for those of you who are listening on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, my hat is off to you as well. Hang out with us on our live streams, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, Sundays and Wednesdays. New episodes every Tuesday on any place where podcasts are sold or downloaded, and YouTube's.
Join our Discord where you'll find different rooms for updates, clips, self-promo, and some suggestions, if you have any, for our stream and all that new challenge stuff that we're adding. So please come check that out. I hope you guys like that. And until then,
we will see you in game.